Welcome to Legerity's IFRS 17 podcast. Today, looking at the global standard from a regional perspective. Legerity are a UK headquartered software solutions provider dedicated to the insurance industry. This podcast is being brought to you as part of Legerity's IFRS 17 program of events and publications. As the team are currently visiting Hong Kong, this is the ideal opportunity to discuss how insurers globally are dealing with the challenge of IFRS 17 and the regional differences. First, some introductions. I am Mike Wilson, CEO and founder of Ditto, and I have the pleasure of moderating today's session. Ditto are a marketing and business development practice focused on technology with offices in London and Dublin. I'm also the founder of the RegTech Forum, a not-for-profit industry-wide community and resource dedicated to regulation and technology innovation. I am joined by Legerity CEO and founder Jeremy Wood and global IFRS lead Mark Miller. So first, Jeremy. Jeremy has over 25 years experience in finance system and accounting rules technology. Prior to Legerity, Jeremy was founder and managing director of OST Business Rules Limited, whose accounting rules software was used by many of the world's largest financial services corporations. Jeremy led the company through its acquisition by Microgen plc and the subsequent release of Aptitude. He's a previous winner of the prestigious EY Entrepreneur of the Year Award and 2018 UK Technology Enterprise Awards. Good morning, Jeremy. Mark is a qualified accountant, ACA, with over 20 years of experience of finance change programs. Mark initially trained by PwC in the insurance practice. He's been involved in multiple accounting and IFRS implementations and is a global lead at Legerity for IFRS 15, 16 and 17 programs. Okay, to set the scene, IFRS 17 is a major challenge for insurers globally. However, the new accounting standard gives firms an opportunity to transform their business, reducing the cost base while also utilising emerging technologies. International insurers are having to consider how to standardise processes, bridging the gap between actuarial and finance functions across multiple worldwide locations. For these firms, there are also considerations among multiple languages and currencies and compliance in non-IFRS 17 regions. So firstly, to Jeremy and to Hong Kong. Jeremy, could you please start by explaining why you are in Hong Kong and what brings you there, please?
Yeah, well, thank you, Mike. So delighted to be back here. I think this is probably about the fourth or fifth time over the last 10 months or so that as a team we've been in Hong Kong. As you know, as you mentioned, IFRS 17 is a global standard. It actually affects over 40 jurisdictions globally and around 450 listed insurers. A lot of those firms are focused and based in Asia, whether they're local firms or regional insurers or part of a larger global firm. So Asia is a really high growth part of the world, high growth geography for the insurance sector. And at Legerity, we've been working with a number of the global and regional insurers on their IFRS 17 programs over the last 12 months or so. So we're certainly continuing to work with those clients. We'll talk a bit more about that in a moment. But one of the other activities that we're doing, and the reasons we're here in Hong Kong, is that we're very pleased to announce the opening of our Hong Kong office that's covering the Asia Pacific region, so APAC region. And really delighted to announce the appointment of Peter Hasselbacher as head of our business in APAC. Peter's a significantly experienced industry executive and previously established FIS Profit, that's one of the main actuarial systems, as the leading actuarial system in the region. So he introduced it to Asia Pacific and built a large business. So Peter brings an extensive network of client and partner relationships within the region, which will definitely help us develop our business. So, working with current clients and opportunities, but now we're very, very well placed to serve our clients throughout the Far East.
Oh, fantastic. Congratulations. Thank you, Jeremy. And leads on to a question to Mark. Now with your Hong Kong establishment office there and looking at the Asia-Pac region, Mark, is IFRS 17 viewed the same in Hong Kong as is in Europe? Are there regional differences?
Well, the actual standard itself is called HKFRS in Hong Kong, so different name, but underneath that in the details, it's exactly the same as the IFRS 17 global standard. And in that context, there's no difference. That's not to say that the regulator won't ask Hong Kong insurers for additional information that may be local. So companies need to be aware of that, but otherwise it's the same. I think the prime difference in Hong Kong compared to, say, the UK or some other European countries is that HKFRS is mandatory for all insurers, and so that means the base of companies that has to comply is much larger, because even non-listed entities and smaller entities are still having to comply with HKFRS, and that makes Hong Kong really a sort of lead area for businesses like ourselves and advisory companies thinking about IFRS 17. So it's kind of a hub, and so that's why it's a very important region for us. So from Hong Kong, we can also look at other Asian markets, but with Hong Kong being a lead market. And of course, that also means that a lot of companies are quite advanced in their thinking, particularly the bigger ones. But what I would say is yeah, Hong Kong, the insurers are a little bit different. So there's a lot more focus on the variable fee approach, because they have a lot of products, innovative products with participating features. The products have a lot more multi-currency, because they're often denominated in US dollars and Hong Kong dollars. And also, I think what's unique about Hong Kong is it's such a growing market that we're seeing a lot of startups, a lot of product innovation, and therefore modern technology like ourselves is very important.
Thank you, Mark. Well, returning back to Jeremy. Jeremy, you said at the top of the interview, this is not your first trip to Asia as Legerity. So what is the IFRS 17 adoption like there? What's the traction like across the region?
So, as I mentioned, the Asian market is typified by a number of very large global insurers, whether they're European or US firms or out of China, but a lot of local regional firms. And as Mark mentioned, there's lots of startups and challengers bringing a lot of innovation in their products to the market. I think when we look at the overall traction, by the very nature, the global firms, typically have to move first, so they're more advanced in their programs than the regional firms. But overall, I think they're still at an early stage of implementation. No one's live on IFRS 17, and no one's going to be live, in the next few months. So we're seeing early stages of implementation, maybe in the larger firms, but definitely the regional firms and the more local providers are now starting to accelerate their programs. So my take is I don't believe there's a significant difference in what we're seeing specifically in Hong Kong and Asia with what we're seeing in the European market in the main. I think there's one region, which is really the DAC region in Europe, which is more advanced. I think that's well known. But overall, I think, compared to European insurers, the South African market, Australasian and Asian, they're all largely at the same similar level. I think there's some interesting things that are coming out now, and at Legerity we've been around this space, accounting change and finance transformation, now for over 25 years. So we're vastly experienced in understanding maybe some of the complexities of these programs, whether it's introducing a new standard or finance transformation. And what we're seeing in the market is that, typically what can happen with these complex new standards, and some of the standards, are firming up, but they have evolved over the last 6 to 12 months. Some of those very early adopters, and they could be the larger firms, are now starting to struggle with their programs. They selected technology or started to build internally very early. And now they're starting to struggle. So first mover advantage may not actually have worked for them in some of these instances, and they are revisiting their plans and their architecture. I think those firms coming to the market now are well placed to benefit from the knowledge that the market generally has. I think when we look at the second half of 2019, I think generally the market, not just us, but the market in general, and advisory firms are seeing a major ramp up of implementation activity, which will place significant demand on resources, both internal and the external market as well.
Thank you very much. And just returning to Mark, we've heard there from Jeremy on regional perspectives, you know, where there's some nuances, where there's some similarities. As global IFRS 17, Mark, are there particular global themes that are now being reinforced with people's understanding of IFRS 17 and its adoption?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the big global theme is time is running out. So, you know, there's a big,
Right.
definitely people need to crack on with this. I think, you know, probably everywhere, but really specifically in Hong Kong, with so many insurers needing to comply, resource challenge is a major issue, both finance and actuarial resources. And so, you know, companies who can provide pre-configured solutions and out-of-the-box functionality together with very simple and efficient implementation approaches, I think have a major role to play. And also, where there's so many smaller insurers, you know, they don't have so many experts in the company, and they also have limited time to do other things. You know, they're really looking for simple out-of-the-box solutions. So again, pre-configured applications that not only, you know, give you what you need, but they also tell you what you need to do. So that kind of approach is going to be very important in Hong Kong and the wider region. We also see that the proof of concept idea, you know, with people reluctant to make these kind of big decisions without first seeing something. So the role of proof of concepts in the vendor selection process, like a lot of Europe, is something we see a lot in the region, and therefore again, vendors like ourselves who have very well pre-configured solutions with cloud-based setups are able to do well. I suppose one thing a little bit unique about Hong Kong is, you know, a lot of insurers have maybe US or European presences, so multi-gap requirements are very important. And of course, in the US, there's a part of a new standard called LDTI, which many insurers in the region are also impacted. So it's more than just IFRS 17 for some of those US related companies. You know, and overall, the big global theme with IFRS is data. Data is key, and Hong Kong is not unique in that respect.
Well, thank you very much. Well, lastly, I'd like one closing comment from Jeremy and Mark. If there's one further thing that you're taking away from this trip that you'd like to share with the audience, what would that be? And let's start with Mark.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing is that the insurers need guidance and support from the vendors. So, you know, that places us in an ideal position with the depth of our configuration and data definition.
Thank you very much. And Jeremy, a closing comment.
Yeah, I think what this trip has really reinforced, Mike, is really the timelines for us. You know, it is a big market. I started by saying it's a global market, 450 listed insurers globally. Some of these firms are massive. So it's a big change. I think the November, you know, the 14th of November extension by the ISAB last year sort of gave everyone a bit of breathing space. But if you look at where we are now, coming to, you know, mid-year 2019, and you work forward to an ideal timeline of being in transition in 2021, effectively you've got 18 months left to deliver these projects and go into transition. 18 months still sounds a long time, but it isn't. so really timelines are tight. They're still sufficient, but you know, firms have to get a move on and start to accelerate their programs.
Oh, many thanks very much, Jeremy and Mark, for your time, and safe travels back to the UK. One exciting time for Legerity, opening up the Hong Kong office and having an Asia Pacific head of business development there, helping firms bridge the gap of risk and actuarial and talent and project themes. The POC model too, it's great to see that being rolling out across Asia. So to find out more about Legerity and their IFRS solutions, please visit www.legerityfinancial.com at the details on your screen right now. There is an industry article published to accompany this podcast, and this leads me to say thank you very much, Jeremy and Mark, for your time.